Bring up the power rankings, baby. We're rolling through. I don't know. I go through my ones first if you want. Um, I kind of was thinking, what's going on here? Omar, let me know when this is up on the screen because we've got a banger to run through here, I think. Austin's are going to be different, lines are going to be different, but I think this is pretty good. So I was reading a Reddit thread and someone made quite an interesting point that if you're going to put someone on the same tier as someone else, there needs to be kind of like a 50-50-ish chance that they're going to beat each other. And if a team's going to be on a higher level, it's going to be like a 75-25 type chance, like almost like an ELO type system, which made me think that despite Thieves being very good and OpTic improving a lot and Ravens being there and all these other teams, FaZe, to me, I think are in a tier of their own right now, just on how they've played so far. I think FaZe will be the favorites in every series they play, obviously, but significant favorites in pretty much every series apart from maybe LA Thieves right now, and maybe OpTic depending on how they play. Who really knows? But yeah, to me, I just think FaZe are the team that is very hard to see someone beating them. They're 5-0, haven't lost as of yet. Really have hit your guys' stride. S tier, no doubt. Whether anyone should join them there is another question. But then I was like, look, out of the other teams, who's more likely to win than others? Like, I think it's a very interesting question. I think you could argue that maybe Seattle or Ultra should drop down one more, but I didn't want to put Ultra just below the second tier here, just because, like, they were S tier. They were the number one team in the game, no doubt, after the Kickoff Classic. They won the entire thing. It's been only a few weeks of online matches, and now we're talking about them being outside of the top, top six even, arguably. So, it makes me think they still deserve a shot in there because Ultra, they've not placed outside of the top three for any event for the last year. So, and maybe they will do this time, but I just think that they still might put it together. So I've got to keep them in there. But the second team, I think, is LA Thieves. I think that right now, with the way they played, the way their hardpoint is, I think they probably have to be number two. After that, I've got OpTic. I was going to put London over OpTic, but of course, London did beat OpTic. But that was kind of a lesser OpTic than we're seeing now. And I think that if OpTic play the way they are doing at the moment against London, apparently mine's flipped, Omar. I don't know if that's true. But, I'll just keep on chatting. So anyway, I had London just behind OpTic. I think the way OpTic playing it right now, they'd probably have won that series against London and wouldn't have got reverse swept. But so I'm still confident in London, guys. And then Seattle down here in kind of like that sixth position, which is, a bit of a strange one, but they have kind of fallen off. So I think we've got to give it the credit. I don't know, maybe we're fixing the graphics, all that good stuff. Then we go down another tier. So all of those teams, and maybe I could have put Seattle in potential, but I just feel like they made the grand finals of the opening weekend. There's a decent chance they come out and just play lights out again and somehow win or make the grand finals. Like, I wanted to put all the teams that I felt had a shot at making grand finals in that kind of title contenders, and I think there's a lot of them. Sorry if that was showing preseason. Okay. This is what we're talking about. So maybe we can overlay that in the version of this that goes to YouTube. But okay, then we've got the potential tier. So these are the tier of teams that I don't think are going to make the grand finals or even do that much special. But Minnesota Rocker, Los Angeles Guerrillas, Boston Breach. Rocker are above the other two. I think just about. It's very close to call. Despite having a loser's seed, I think who they played, they're probably good value for money for like that seventh slot. Then Mutineers, then New York, then Paris. No brainer. We'll talk about Paris actually in a second because they're making a roster move here. But that's kind of the bracket I've got going on, or that's the power rankings I've got going on. I think it's okay. I think there might be a few things I'd switch around, but I just was excited putting it together of like, there's 6 teams I can see, maybe even more, making the grand finals here. And there's at least like 4 teams capable of winning it, I think, Austin. So maybe we can show Austin's one, and then we'll do lines. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
So
same for both of you.
Yeah, mine is very different from the preseason. So it says preseason, but this is my pre-major 1-1. I currently have, or no, it isn't. Okay, it is right. Damn. Sorry, Omar. So mine, I do have like ourselves in S tier. I just truly believe that we are the number one team, but that doesn't mean we're like leaps and bounds over anybody. I feel like we still have to grind and continue getting better at every aspect of the game. And this because like when you're number one, everyone's gonna be watching us and trying to get to the level we're at. So got to stay hungry at all points. The title contenders right now, that's just obviously going into this major. I think these are the three hottest teams outside of us. I feel like LA, Texas, and London are all they have like elite game modes, and then the other modes are very good for them. So like that's something I think you need to have to be able to win a tournament is have like your one go-to mode, which for like LA Thieves is hardpoint, and then be able to take other modes and be able to be good at other modes. And that's what they may be struggling in S&D, but they can take S&Ds, they can take controls, and that's what's going to win them series moving into the deep end of the bracket. And that's something OpTic and London are also good at, and that's why I have them in the title contenders. And the potential, these are teams that I still think are very, very good, but have stumbled in the last week. Obviously Seattle and Toronto had really bad week threes. I still think they're going to be really good. Obviously, LAN is a different beast than online. I still believe that if these teams go back and look at the VOD, they're going to learn a lot about themselves over the past 2 weeks. So that's a major difference going forward. Again, potential for me means that they can still potentially win a tournament, or they can potentially still be in the little slump they're in. So that's what I have. The next tier is like teams that have like unpredictability, like they're not consistent. So you have like LAG, Minnesota, Boston, and Florida. I think all four of these teams have modes that they can win, right? But it's just the consistency. Like for instance, like Boston. Boston was one of the best S&D teams, but have now lost 3 S&Ds in a row, and they are one of the worst control teams. Um, their control stats are actually scary. Um, they have a .76, .97, a .83, and a .93. So they are not very good at control. So that's like what this tier is. It's like they're very good at one mode, but then I don't have too much faith in the other ones, or they're really like inconsistent. But the thing with all these teams is, while I don't know if they'll win this major or be in the grand finals, I feel like these teams could easily knock off somebody they're not supposed to beat, and like people are gonna be shocked by them, right? Like Florida, I think is one of the most underrated teams. They're like pure gun skill, pure gunny. If you're gonna match up and play their game, they're gonna beat you. So you got to remember to play your own game, play fundamentally correct, and like try to battle it out that way. Same thing with like LAG. LAG is really good at hardpoint. Minnesota's really good at S&D. So if you let it get deep into the series, they're gonna be hard to put away. So none of those teams are bad. I just don't know consistency wise if they have all three modes down to where they want it to be, or they're in losers bracket. For the bottom two, these are teams that I just don't think like they're just kind of going through the motions at this next major. They're obviously going to be trying to get as much practice as they can and take this. Obviously, they're going to take it 100% seriously and try to win. I just think if you start in the losers, it's always going to be a tough task. And New York is obviously 0-9 in hardpoint. I don't think you can ever be 0 in anything this late into a stage and have a consistent shot at winning. So that's why they're there. And then Paris. Obviously, we might be able to talk about this after, but Paris might even have a new roster going into this. So I really don't
Still
know
12,
how
baby.
I don't know how much practice they'll have. They might have a honeymoon period, but until I see them play, this is where I'm going to be putting them.
Yeah,
Line comments on your list.
I 100% agree with Austin.
Let's go.
I will be honest, I didn't make a tier list, but I saw Austin's and I feel 100% the same way. I just think maybe Ultra could be in that like second tier. I think it's a little bit harsh to judge them off how they ended that stage because they lost full against OpTic, and then I feel like that was momentum based. They just didn't show up for the next match because I can imagine that they're still a little bit in their heads about that situation. So yeah, LAN's a whole new animal. I can see them being really good, and if because their first round matchup is against LA Thieves, they get over them, especially with how hot LA Thieves look right now. I can see them going all the way. So right now, yeah, pretty much the same as Austin, but I can see Ultra definitely still being in that title contender / S tier potentially.